Welcome, everyone, to another fine episode of Turn-Based Memories. Episode 5, to be specific, where my co-host Zoltan and I take turns sharing our memories of RPGs. Last episode, we showcased Final Fantasy II, or 4, a game neither of us had played, but this time we're getting back to our usual format, where one of us has played the game and the other has not. And then we compare our experiences. Episode 5 is all about Shadow Heart's Covenant. Released in 2004 for the PS2 and published by Midway in the United States and developed by Nautilus, two names you have probably not heard in a very long time. This turn-based game makes heavy use of something called the Judgment Ring, which is kind of like a quick-time event but without the randomness or unexpected timing. General progression in the game is of a linear sort that takes place in a pseudo-historical place set in Europe, somewhere around World War I. So, without further ado, let's get into the first segment of our episode. Shadow Heart's Covenant came to me at just the right time in my gaming career. I had enough extra cash to buy games I had never heard of and plenty of free time to spend playing everything I bought multiple times over. So, yes, Shadow Hearts 2 was one of those games, and yes, this is why I picked it for Zoltan. It's a standout PS2 RPG. Or is it? As we've covered in previous episodes, Zoltan has more 8 and 16-bit gaming experience than I do, whereas I have more experience with games from the PS2 and GameCube era than he does. With that in mind, I have to wonder if everything Shadow Hearts 2 does will be as impressive to Zoltan as it was to me. The ensemble cast, for one, was something I wasn't used to in high-production RPGs. What I didn't know, and what I've learned from previous episodes on our show, was that this is how RPGs used to be made, with a cast of characters numbering more than just 3 or 4, and most importantly, with complex systems differentiating each character. As for the combat system, the novel Judgment Ring isn't something Zoltan would have seen before outside of the original Shadow Hearts game, of course, a game we've both played prior to this series, by the way. This system is what prevents Shadow Hearts from being yet another turn-based game, and even as a die-hard fan of such games, I can admit its exclusion would have knocked the experience down a peg. Everything uses the dang ring. You can fail at using a healing item, and I love it. And you know what? Zoltan better love it too. Or at least he should love the other systems in play, like comboing or changing your hit direction. A lengthy RPG's combat system can get tiresome, and that definitely happened with the original Shadow Hearts game. But with this much variety of characters and choices in battle, how can you get bored? Now we need to touch on music. It's neat? Spooky? Ambient? Let's go with ambient. But not very memorable, I'm afraid. Town music is calm and soothing, combat music is tense, and if Zoltan has any more to say about it than that, I'd be impressed, quite honestly. Finally, let's talk about the story. It probably says something that I've waited until the end of my segment to address it, because the story in this game is kinda all over the place. There's vague pseudo-historical figures at play. Rasputin is a cult leader for some reason, and Roger Bacon is an 1800s all-powerful magician, and plenty of real-world place names are all over the map. But the plot itself never stuck in my mind. I just like the look of it, I guess. Yuri and the rest of the protagonists are fun to follow around. The Grand Papillon is a lovable goof, but the rest is just plot. Perhaps Zoltan was more absorbed into the world. It does look enticing, until you actually, well, look at it. I have a feeling Zoltan is going to agree with me on that one.
Oh my god! Oh my god! It's finally happening! It's happening! Zoltan and Mel's gaming podcast is actually having us play games that are wonderful. There must be so many amazing JRPGs out there just waiting to be played. And among those holy relics is Shadow Hearts Covenant. I do not deserve you, Mel. I do not deserve a game as well made as Shadow Hearts 2 Covenant. This game is a masterclass in how to make a traditional turn-based RPG. Let's start at the beginning. The game starts in the town of Domremy. That's the same town in which Joan of Arc was born. But the Domremy La Pucelle of this story is a female soldier named Karen Koenig. What? That doesn't sound French, it sounds German. Instead of seeing a vision of an angel, she gets an actual encounter with a demon. Her unit fails to damage the demon, and it kills all of them except for Karen. But that's all pre-rendered. We get to see the real graphics and hear the voice acting right after that, and they're pretty solid. Solid voices, solid graphics, solid intro. Nothing really stands out, but it did capture my attention, and the quality of everything is consistent. Stuff doesn't become awesome until you have your first battle, though. The Judgment Ring is the main innovation of this game. It just goes round and round, round and round and round. And you have to time button presses to either get hits, critical hits, which are called strikes in this game, or misses. How much could something that resembles QuickTime events possibly add to an RPG? Dude, it revolutionizes the entire freaking grind! This is the truly mind-blowing aspect of Shadow Hearts 2. Thanks to the Judgment Ring, the difficulty of the random battles is almost perfectly balanced. It takes about 10 battles to level up in any area of the game. If you just go for normal hits, you can kill most enemies in 2 hits. So you have 4 guys, and there are 3 to 6 enemies. So you're looking at an average of 10 turns being taken in total per battle. That means the enemies are getting 2 attacks on you each battle. The battle speed is pretty average, so it could indeed become a chore to fight 10 battles under these conditions, but if you can manage to press the button when the ring indicator is in the strike zones, you can one-shot dudes. So if you get good, you can rip through battles quickly, get a level or 2, and before you know it, you can just kill guys with regular hits. That is ingenious! And if you're too late to hit the strike zone, you just miss. So there are all kinds of risks and rewards that come to play with the Judgment Ring. Oh, continue playing. And what's the next thing that will brighten your play experience through this otherwise dark game? How about Karen's hot legs? Oh yes! I don't know about you, but a little sexy eye candy does indeed make a game more fun for me. I was oppressing Karen with my male gaze for the whole game. It was a good time. All the other busty as hell characters you meet weren't bad either, but Karen is the best. Now, once you get to your first town, which is freaking Paris, France, all the locations in this game are real-life places because the game is based on a true story. Once you reach the town, stuff gets kind of boring. Do we not all dread the idea of having to talk to every person in a massive town area? We have to talk to all of them, right? Because we might miss something good, right? Most of the time, it's nothing great, but Shadow Hearts 2 makes it worth your while. Here is where you start to realize just how many systems of character development are in this game. You can have Joachim train with his master to learn new abilities. You can have your wolf fight all the other dogs in the world one-on-one to fill up a stamp card like the one you would get at a grocery store. You can play the lottery. You can look for music lovers and ask them for sheet music of Wagner's Der Ring des Nibelungen. You can have Pierre make a dress for Geppetto's marionette. You can go shopping! The shopping system is sweet! It's another fantastic use of the Judgment Ring. You hit the right spots on the ring and you get a discount when buying or increase the price when selling. You can get as much as 50% off, yo! With that, I pretty much hit the core of what makes this game great. There are many things that keep this game from entering my personal top 10 list. The atmosphere is too dark for my tastes. I do not like the music at all, and I wish I could avoid random battles sometimes. But objectively looking at it, all the little character improvement systems, combined with the Judgment Ring battle system, very well designed levels, pretty good hidden items, good jokes, and sexy legs, makes Shadow Hearts Covenant one of the best games you could ever play.
And now welcome to the discussion section of our latest episode for Shadow Hearts 2. Actually, it's not Shadow Hearts 2, it's Shadow Hearts Covenant. I don't think 2 is in the title. Do you know that?
I think it was in the, where did I see it? I saw it somewhere. It was like in the title screen or somewhere. Or maybe,
was it actually on the title?
No. I think it was in Japan. It was called Shadow Hearts 2 Covenant.
Oh.
And since it is the second Shadow Hearts, I kept referring to it as Shadow Hearts 2.
Oh, man, I wonder why they dropped it in English. Well, that's beside the point.
Yeah.
We are now in the discussion phase, where as the discussion leader, I will just throw a couple quick questions and observations toward my co-host, Zoltan, about his experience and my experience and some reactions to the pieces that you just heard in this episode. So the first thing I have to say right off the bat is I really should have had more faith in my initial feelings on this game, because you clearly really love this game.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was great.
Oh, man. I was really, hesitant, because it had been a while since I properly played through the whole game, but I remember being electrified by this game for a whole host of reasons that I couldn't put my finger on when I was playing it. But because, as I said in my segment, because of this show, I was able to sort of pinpoint exactly what it was, and I'm curious if you sort of agree with this assessment. And it's because the ensemble cast with all of these fleshed out, cool and engaging combat systems that are unique to all of the characters is something that's kind of reminiscent of old JRPGs on 2D games, when they had the room and the bandwidth to make all of those systems. And then when they moved to 3D gaming, they had to sort of truncate, and I only have 3 characters, and they're all kind of samey, and this all that uniqueness that came out along with those large player party pools kind of went away a little bit, and this brings it back. I don't know if you agree.
So I hadn't thought about it in that way. Yes, the reason I liked it was indeed all the level up systems with how every character has their own way of getting stronger and getting abilities, and combined with that sweet, Judgment Ring combat system. But what games? I'm sorry, not game. What do you think is the reason? Do you mean that when we went to 3D games, they were too busy focusing on graphics that they stopped caring about all those other systems? Because obviously, systems don't take up a lot of room. It's graphics and music that take up room on discs and things. So, what do you think the reason is? I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I think the reason is less that they didn't care, it's more they didn't have the time, because much of the budget and the emphasis was placed on this has to be 3D. And all of the extra time and money they would have had making, another 2D game went toward, figuring out, pioneering 3D gaming. And now that we had moved with this game further ahead to the PS2, where a lot of 3D polygonal gaming, programming, artistry, that has all been figured out.
Yeah.
They now had gotten themselves back to a place where they had room for all of those extras that kind of got stripped out of early 3D role-playing games.
I don't know. I always thought of the PS1 eras where 3D was really beginning, right? And
sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I always thought of the PS1 as the era where the developers were all saying, we're going to try all kinds of crazy experimental things. And the publisher, like Sony, was like, yeah, you guys, we'll publish anything. Just make it unique and great and just make it stand out in some way.
I think that's true on a lot of levels. I think when it came to making something that was closer to like the old school RPGs. It took until, well, Final Fantasy IX, that was PS1, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
and that
so
one
I,
was
I
kind of
think that
old
was a
school.
conscious effort, yeah, to bring it back toward that.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that was just like a little wild hair that I had about the connection there, but
Well,
no, I
what?
think you're also right that a lot of PS1 games are very experimental.
Yeah. Well, what games specifically come to mind when you think like, yeah, they kind of let the characters become all washed out and monotone,
Well, more like the systems.
or the systems? Yeah.
So
Sorry. Okay, the systems.
yeah, mm, like I think I'm thinking of like PS2 era games or
Yeah.
GameCube era games
Okay.
where maybe that's when the focus on graphics actually started to kick in hardcore. And maybe I jumped it by a generation. So you had a lot of role-playing games where they we're focusing on voice acting, focusing on symphonic music,
Yeah.
focusing on getting away from being more like movies, which
Yeah.
happened even more so in the PS3 era.
Yeah.
And maybe they had more leg room to put in all those extras, but they used it all up to focus even further on graphics. So,
Yeah.
I mean, to some degree, you can't win, but I think that regardless, Shadow Hearts 2 hews a
Comes
lot
through.
closer to the older games.
I suppose so. Yeah. If I think of old games, I don't know. All the games that I play, nearly all of them had a good amount of systems in them. Like you always hear
Mm,
me mention Star Ocean. That game had a lot of systems in it,
sure.
even from the beginning. Even on the one that didn't come out in America, on which was Star Ocean One on Super Famicom, Super Nintendo, didn't come to America. But when I played the remake of it on PSP, it had almost all the same systems as Star Ocean Two, and that's way back in the Super Nintendo era. And then yeah, going into PlayStation era, just all these experimental games like Brave Fencer,
Hmm.
Musashi, and let's see, JRPGs. Oh, okay, I played a lot of Final Fantasy games though. And in terms of number of systems, I'd say Final Fantasy is actually lower on the count
It probably
for games that
is.
I play. Yeah,
It probably is. And definitely Dragon Quest is way on the bottom of terms of systems at
number of
play.
yeah, just
It's
level
like
up,
two,
just level up.
attack and level up.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So, uh, one other observation that I wanted to make, just sort of as a moving on point here, is that
Mm.
as I was listening to your piece and watching a lot of other videos about this game to sort of get myself back up to speed before I wanted to make any comments, I instantly wanted to play this game again. I had kind of forgotten how much I actually really liked this game.
Oh, good. How many times have you played it?
I'm gonna say I finished it once, and then like many other games, I played through it most of the way, maybe 50, 60% of the way, 3 or 4 times.
So
There's still a lot
pretty
of
well.
time in the game.
Yeah,
I
it's a
maybe I
long
finished it
game.
twice. It is a long game. It's like you think it's over, and then it keeps going.
Yeah, one of the dungeons, like even before the end of disc one, I think it was. It was before the final dungeon on disc one. I
Hmm.
thought that was gonna be. I think it was the dungeon leading up to the Rasputin boss battle,
Hmm.
which was a pretty long one. And there were lots of paths that I ended up not taking before finding the boss. I thought that was going to be the final dungeon. Nope.
Yep. Yep. I think I had the same exact thought. And then by the end of the game, we're like, man, remember Rasputin? That
Yeah,
was like
a long
forever
time
ago.
ago, yeah. Now it's Kato.
So, yeah, that's right. So now, one part about this that I think we're both equally critical on is the music.
Yeah, which
And
I was very surprised to see that freaking oh god, what's his name? Mitsuda, what's his name? Yasunori
I didn't catch
Mitsuda?
his name. Oh, yeah. Yes, I know that name. I didn't catch that's who made the
he didn't do all of it. He just did like some tracks, like a guest composition role or something. And I had an idea upon listening which ones might have been him, but even his songs, I weren't really into them. I wasn't really into them.
I was struggling before, like, looking up this stuff on this game to, like, remember the soundtrack, because I know I want to touch on it every time we do one of these episodes, and I was like, I don't remember, like, much. I'm sure there's, like, some good old butt rock in there, and sure enough there is, and I was sure that there was some, like, a little bit, yeah. And I'm sure there's, like, some generic town music and whatever, but it's just none of it stood out. It was very, there was a lot of chanting and sort of, like, kind of fitting with that weird, like, mystical sanity realm motif that's going on with it, which I think is underutilized in this. They play it up a bit more in the one that comes after this game, I think.
What is that? Sanity realm? What do you mean?
So, you know the sanity points in the battle system?
Oh, that thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of forgettable. It's this weird timer and other thing that you have to keep your eye on in every battle.
And you go berserk, right?
Yeah, you go, like, insane. And the whole idea is that the stuff you're looking at in this sort of, like, Lovecraftian way is, like, too crazy for you to handle, so it's slowly sapping your mental state.
I see.
And they play into that more, I think, in the third game a little bit, which I played most of the way through, not all of the way through, but that's a separate thing. But in this game, it seems like it took the back seat, but I feel like they were trying to tap into that with the music and this sort of weird, like, type of music that they had, chanting and stuff going on in the background.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think so much of this game, including my next point, which is the plot, so much of this game takes a backseat to the really awesome, like, mechanics and battle system.
Yeah. The plot as well, yeah. I was having a hard time following most of it, to be honest. Like, all in the beginning, you hear the name Sapientes Gladio, and it's like, okay, Sapientes Gladio are the bad guys, I guess. And then, like, you keep hearing, Sapientes Gladio did something. Sapientes Gladio did something. And, like, I don't really understand what's happening except for Sapientes Gladio did something. And then somewhere around the halfway point, it's or somewhere along the way, you hear, okay, Rasputin is trying to take over Russia or something. Okay, so now Rasputin is the problem. We need to take care of Rasputin. He's causing all the problems. We take care of him, and then it's like, okay, now this other guy, Kato, who's actually our friend, he wants to destroy the world because I forgot the reason, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't. It's like the whole story takes a backseat. What were we going to say?
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, it was one of those, this world is beyond redemption, and there's too much suffering in the world, and the only way to get rid of it is to just not have a world, sort of a thing. Although he didn't actually want to destroy the world. He wanted to take it back in time by like 100 years or something.
Yeah, the original events of the game. You played the first one, right?
Yeah, but I don't remember the story at all, and I didn't finish it either.
Yeah, the original events of the game, of the first game, have to do with like the early 18 to mid 1800s, and this I think is supposed to be like World War I-ish era or something like that.
Okay.
So I guess it's 100 years ago, and if I remember correctly, Yuri is the same guy between both games. So he's like over 100 years old somehow because he's a demon or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I think they said he is a human, but yeah, he has demons living inside of him.
Right. Something like that. And there's a lot of like weird people who are super long-lived, like Roger Bacon, that guy with the top hat. Did you even know who he was? Because I think they don't tell you who he is in this game.
No, I'm like, I thought, I wasn't sure. I mean, he apparently, it seemed to me that Yuri was living in this town of Dom Remy at the time when they got attacked, and that's why he was there to kill all those soldiers in the opening cutscene, I guessed.
Something like that.
And then after all of that, you know, you get the scene where he's just sitting down at a campfire with that girl Jean, I guess is her way you pronounce her name, and Geppetto and the dog Blanca, and so like this is his like adopted family or something. I didn't. That's what I thought.
I don't even know. Like, I really like the setting in this game because it's like sort of modern, like new-ish. It's not fantasy. It's not high fantasy. It's not Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it's not that. Yeah.
So in that way, especially for the time, it felt kind of like fresh, sort of, or just like not.
Yeah.
I don't know. There were a lot of games set in that sort of period as well, but I wish they had done more with it.
With the setting?
With the setting, like they had made a more compelling story to go along with like the rest. Because I was more excited about like leveling up Yuri's like demons than I was
the story. Yeah,
the story. Like, ooh, what does the next one look like? Ooh, what does this thing do?
Yeah.
How do I upgrade all of these different characters? Really cool. Combat mechanics. How do I get the new dress for Geppetto?
Yeah.
How do I get, the next dog stamp for Blanca?
Yeah.
Or the next whatever the hell that the Grand Papillon is going to pick up and swing around.
I know, that was hilarious. One thing that the story did, one thing that helped the story, though, I enjoyed the characters, of course, but aside from the characters themselves, were the comedy moments. And
sure.
One of them that stands out to me is the one where they're on a boat. I think it's the beginning of Disc 2. They're on a boat, and, like, Yuri's laying down because he feels seasick. And so, like, that girl, Anastasia, she asks, where's Yuri? And they're like, oh, he's laying down because he's sick. He said he feels like he's going to die. And she's like, please, show me the person who ever died from being seasick. And then they cut to him laying down, and there's a big arrow on the screen pointing at him. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, they did a really decent job of, like, translating some humor over. I think Joachim, the Grand Papillon, is, like, one of the better examples
Me too.
Of just, like, not taking itself seriously, but in a clever way, like, not just falling over itself to be a clown.
Yeah.
Having some brain about it, which was nice.
He was my favorite character.
He is really cool, and his entire like arc, I think, is cool because all the characters have their own little stories that are attached to them.
Well, wait. I don't know what. I don't remember most of the characters having really. Oh, okay. When you first meet them, they have the short little arc. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Well, there's kind of like a. They all kind of go through their own little progressions, right? Throughout the course of the main story. Or am I totally remembering?
I don't remember it. Well, what was somebody? I remember Yuri and Karen going through big, huge things, and maybe a little bit of that final guy, Kurando. But
yeah, you get that other weird guy at the end that I almost forgot about entirely.
Yeah, guy.
But yeah, Joachim fights that master of his.
Oh,
Did you get to that point?
So
there is
like
some
times.
character progression. Okay.
So it's during those things that you get all their arcs. Okay, yeah, I didn't max out all the characters, so I didn't.
It's like the whole reward for it is you now have their stronger weapon or whatever the hell.
Abilities.
So it's not like
but
or abilities or whatever you unlock.
But story-wise, I don't remember any story for Joachim beyond the mission that you do before recruiting him permanently.
That may have been it.
Yeah, which I don't even really remember being all that developing of him. Just he's this like funny kind of what's the word? Conceited, narcissist, a funny kind of narcissist.
He is a
type,
narcissist,
which is my favorite type of like personality ever. Is the comedic narcissist is like my favorite trope ever, and yeah, basically, he's like, we're gonna stop the bad guys, and they go and try to stop the bad guys, and then they come back and they're like, I'm gonna go with the journey on the journey with these guys. Bye, Grandma.
Yeah, I must have been remembering more about these characters that weren't there because I feel like Geppetto went through some sort of a thing too. Did he not? Am I totally like imagining this? Does he not like have any kind of development as the game goes on? Because I don't honestly remember a ton about that guy.
After just playing it, I don't remember him having anything.
Then I guess not. I mean, you would have, if it were worth remembering, you would have remembered it.
If it were worth remembering, I would have remembered it.
I'm sure there was something said somewhere, but it probably wasn't anything remarkable.
Yeah, like the lots of the well, I don't know, lots of them. Like the bad guy Kato. I mean, yeah, the
Hmm.
bad guy, the antagonist Kato. He gets plenty of development, and he has quite an arc.
Hmm.
Uh, because it seems like in the beginning he's just trying to like do the correct thing, like to like bring back his wife, like to clone, or was it his wife or his lover or whatever, or his girlfriend
Well, I don't
who
remember.
who died, and bring her back as a clone or whatever, which is what he did with that character Oka. But then that character died, and I think after that point was when he just decided, you know what, this world is beyond, is beyond
Beyond
redemption.
saving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that was the point. So I would say that was his arc was he changes
Well,
after he fails at his experiment.
I think all of this uncertainty really just kind of speaks to how
Yeah,
not memorable this plot of this game was. But
yeah,
on the other hand, the game kind of I feel like the game sort of knows it because it's so in love with this judgment ring system that, as you
yeah.
pointed out in your segment,
They
they
keep
put
using
it
it.
fucking everywhere. They
That's
use it for everything.
well, I'm glad they did. I'm glad they
So
did.
am I.
Yeah, that's what they should
I
do.
like it. I like it. I think it's very clever. I think a lot of games, a lot of role-playing games try to introduce a gimmick, but none ever commit this hard.
Yeah. One last thing I wanted to mention about the story. Did you notice
Sure.
in my segment, just before I close out the story, did you notice that I said that all the places are real places because the game is based on a true story?
I mean, I knew they were all named after real places, and I do believe it says based on a true story in the opening, doesn't it?
No, dude. So I was hoping like you would be like, wait, what story is this based on? There weren't any demons in real life or something. No, it's not based on a true story at all. And the opening scene says all of the events in this are fictitious. And
Oh, it says the exact opposite.
it says the
Okay.
exact opposite. You know,
I must have gotten that totally mixed up because I knew there was like an intro where I thought it was doing one of those like BS things that they do in movies, like based on a true story, and it's really not. Obviously not.
no, it was the any connections to real life entities are coincidental thing. So I was hoping like you'd be like, wait a minute, what real story does this is this based on? Yeah, I just made that.
Yeah, the one where Roger Bacon is a guy who wears a
Yeah.
top hat and not like a 12th century monk,
Yeah.
which was like weird. I had to look up who that was. I know who Roger Bacon is. I know he's a guy. I know he's a real person. Who is he? Why is he wearing a top hat?
No, I looked it up too. Yeah, I didn't know.
But he was a main antagonist in the first game for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I got him mixed up with Sir Francis Bacon.
I don't know
Not the
who
same
that.
person.
I don't know who that is either, to be honest. But
He's more recent. I think he's from the 1600s or something. But
also a philosopher.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I would have to look up exactly who he was.
That's fine.
But, Sir Francis, Roger Bacon, philosopher, who there are like ties to like, ooh, was he a wizard? Ooh,
Yeah.
But it's not.
Okay, so what were we talking about just now before I took us back to the story? Oh, the Judgment Ring.
The Judgment Ring and how it's used for, as you were saying in your segment, everything from buying stuff to,
Using items.
Using items.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. And they use it in a whole bunch of crazy different ways. And it all works and it all makes sense. And you would think a mechanic that inserts itself everywhere like that would get tired at some point. But I think by its nature, it's kind of like thrilling every time.
Well, it's exciting because there's a chance of failure, I think is what it is.
Sure.
So it doesn't really become boring thanks to that
Right.
little aspect. And I went for the strikes every time. I tried to get them. I didn't just try to do
Really?
hits. Yeah,
You
I didn't,
just try to play it safe sometimes?
occasionally, but it was rare. I mostly wanted to get the hits because I knew that if I got it, I could kill him in one attack.
Right.
And that makes me
Yeah,
excited.
I think for like shit like healing items, because whenever there's like a blue zone, the later you let it go, the more potent it is.
That's what I wondered about, actually. It does.
Yeah, I
huh?
think they explained that once, and because it goes from like a light blue to a dark blue
Yeah.
near the end. So it's like getting a crit. So you can heal yourself with an item for more if you let it get to the very edge.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when I was like, the shit's hitting the fan, I wouldn't. I would deliberately just be like, screw this. I have to heal. This can't fail.
Yeah, exactly. That's That's why it's awesome. Because, yeah,
It is awesome.
all of
And the
that stuff.
comboing is a really good way of just layering further on top of that. And there's like a little quick time event in between each combo, and you can direct your attacks up, down, or back. So positioning kind of matters
Yeah.
too. It's cool.
Okay, wait. So before we go into the combos, let me, because I have a question about that.
Sure.
The Judgment Ring. Yeah, the thing that I think it's good is that they did the whole triple downing on this one thing. There are like a few different ways to make a whole bunch of systems really feel good in a game. One of them is to do this thing where you have your one system and you just use it for a ton of things. Another way is you could have a bunch of separate systems, but they all affect the other systems. So a good example of this is, for example, Valkyrie Profile 2, where it has like a combo system. It has a body part system where you can hit the enemy different parts of the body, and each part has different HP. And another system that complements that system is when you bring a part of a body down to 0, it has a chance of breaking off and becoming a dropped item. So, for example, a beetle carapace or something like that, right? And then you can take all those items and make weapons and stuff out of them. So those two systems complement each other, right? So that's pretty cool. The thing that games can sometimes be guilty of is they have these systems and they either don't mesh together in any meaningful way, or they don't use them enough. And so this game is totally, takes care of that problem with by using the Judgment Ring for everything. A perfect example of a game that has a whole bunch of systems that don't really mean anything to me is Final Fantasy 15, where you have the magic system, the car thing, the abilities system, just the normal battle system, like all these different systems, and they don't like relate to each other in any way. At least back when it first came out, they didn't. I don't know about now.
Yeah, I haven't spent any time with that game. I think the word of mouth turned me away.
Yeah, I mean, I played it all to the end, and I had an okay time just cruising around the open world, but I wasn't really into the leveling up too much.
Yeah, that's a shame. But this game, I think, really nails getting being confident in that system and saying, no, we're going to use this for everything.
It's the second time, right? They had it in the first King.
I don't recall. Yeah, they did. I don't recall if they used it for everything like this. They probably did. One thing I think that this game definitely does in its favor is that it's pretty unique, because I don't know of any other games that have a Judgment Ring like system at all.
Well, timed hit systems exist though, right?
That's true.
So they're kind of similar. I mean, the one you know, of course, is the Super Mario RPG one.
Yes.
The one that I remember is Legend of Dragoon for the PS1, which had a small. Have you played it?
No.
Yeah, a small square on the screen and another giant square. Zooms in down onto it, and you're supposed to hit it when they're the same size.
Okay, so I think actually, once again, I think you have jogged my memory, because have you played Lost Odyssey?
I haven't.
Ooh, there's another one for the old list, but that one actually, now that you have made me think about it further, has a timed combat system, but not a Judgment Ring. It is a ring, but not one like this. For most primary attacks. But as far as the ring going around and there being steps and multiple steps for each hit and using it in every aspect of the game, this game does do a pretty unique job of standing out in that way. The only issue with the combat system I have is that sometimes it's not quite clear, or at least I didn't think it was clear, when different actions determine your placing in the turn list. Because sometimes the enemy will get 2 turns, and I'm like, why?
Well, that depends on what they did, right?
I guess, but what is it that they're doing or that you're not doing that is determining priority? Because some things are fast actions, I guess, and they put you back in the loop faster or something.
Yeah. I think whenever the enemy uses a buff, for example, and whenever you use buffs also, those take less time to recover from than attacks and magic attacks as well. So that's why sometimes, you could get like two attacks before the enemy gets one.
Right.
And also Anastasia's snapshot ability. I think that doesn't take time. I don't know. I mean, sometimes when you highlight the ability, the turn order doesn't change. Like, I don't think it changes when you highlight the snapshot ability. But when you go into, like, the magic menu and you select, like, the buff magic, the turn order changes. So
I remember being confused about that and sometimes being like, the enemy's got 2 hits coming up in a row, and I'm not really sure why. But,
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like the game does actually put up a stiff challenge at times, but I don't ever recall feeling like, this game's fucking hard.
I think the game regulates the challenge. This is one of those games that regulates the amount of grinding you need to do with the boss battle experience. Another game that does that is Xenogears, where basically you don't have to fight any random battles if you didn't want to. I mean, you still meet them, but you could run from them all. Because the bosses give you... Like, have you noticed how much experience the bosses give you in this game? It's like more than 10 times the amount you get from a normal battle. It's an insane amount. And basically, when I looked at the amount of experience required for the next level up, in any area, it's around 10 battles to get to the next level. And then the boss battle is just one whole level on its own. So, like, you could do it one of 2 ways. You could fight 10 battles and go up 1 level, and then fight the boss and go up 1 more level, and go up 2 levels every dungeon. Or you could just fight the boss battle and go up 1 level every dungeon. But it's still very possible to do that, because in the second half of the game, I stopped fighting random battles and started running because the game was turning out to be very, very long.
Yeah, that is a side effect of our scheduling.
Yeah. I didn't want to do that. I wasn't doing it because I mean, occasionally I wanted to not have battles, but most of the time I was fine. I just felt like I needed to hurry to get the game done.
Aren't there mechanics that level up when you use them in this game, or am I misremembering that? Like certain of like the demons or whatever, don't they get points when you use them?
No, I don't think so.
Or maybe that's something else.
I think the magic crests get leveled up.
There's so many systems.
I'm not sure because when you look at the crests, they all have a level, and the higher level ones just come to you at a higher level. Like the highest ones are like level 11 and require 11 points, crest points to equip. But like some of them come to you at level 2, and now that I think about it, I think they never went beyond that like level 2. But there's some kind of weird gauge on all of the crests, like it's gaining experience or something. I don't know.
Yes. Yes. I remember that for also the demons. I think it's based on killing enemies or something like that. I wish I remembered before I got into this discussion. But
well, the demons have the souls that you can spend on them.
Right.
When you go into Yuri's soul, right?
Yeah, and then how do you collect souls to spend?
You fight battles, and you get a few souls every battle.
I guess that's how it works then.
You get like 3 souls every battle, and if you like perfect, another awesome thing about the Judgment Ring, you hit every hit perfectly, and you can get like a lot more experience and more souls too.
Did you know you can turn the Judgment Ring off?
I did. You mean you can make it like automatic, right?
You can make it auto, yeah.
I saw that. I decided not to try it though. I didn't try it.
No, I think I tried it just to see how it worked when I was playing the game a while ago, and I was like, what do they mean? What does this do? And you don't get any criticals, but it always succeeds. So it's like, in case you really think this is difficult, like, we'll turn it off. I was like, that's nice, I guess.
Nice of them, yeah. Yeah, so let's go into ring types of the rings, all the different rings.
That's right.
Because there's so many cool things.
Weird rings.
Yeah, so you can add any status effect you want onto your ring, really, which just adds it onto your attack. And after somewhere in the middle of the game, I decided to look up a guide about just the mechanics. Because when you go into the ring customization menu, you can choose the gamble ring, which has only 1 hit on it,
Yep.
And I'm thinking, okay, so it only has one hit. Is that hit going to do as much as my 5 hits all combined or something? If I don't miss it, I miss all of them. I wasn't sure. And then there's the what's it called? The technical ring, which is smaller. The hit zones are all
Right.
half size or so. So I looked it up. Apparently, you do like 20 or 30% more damage when you use the technical ring. So I was like, okay. I switched to technical ring after that.
Nice.
And I went to that.
I wonder if I think I tried and I was like, this is too hard. I may have gone back to the normal one. And there's one that has like, isn't it either it's a status effect or a ring that you can equip where your timing on the ring needle is like variable?
Yeah, there's a status effect.
Status effect.
There are a couple status effects. There's the one that like makes it go in reverse order.
Oh man, that's right. I forgot about that.
But then, yeah, there's one that hit me a few times, which is where the ring starts the normal speed, but starts going faster, accelerating through the revolution. So you're very likely to miss the last hit or something. Yeah, and I also found out upon cheating and looking up secret things on the internet that you don't do that much more damage when you keep adding on attacks to the ring. So like,
oh really?
Yeah. So I mean, I was watching a speed run of it. Like after I had gone like halfway through, I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch like the first few hours of a speed run just because I bet I'll hear all kinds of cool things. And I did. And one of the things they said is, yeah, a good thing to do is just leave it at a single hit for everyone. Which bummed me out after I heard that because I was getting so excited every time I met the ring soul and got another attack boost.
Yeah.
Because my whole idea was I wanted to make Karen the mega character or whatever, like just give all of the attack boost to her and have her hit 10 times and everybody else just hit once. But everybody has a maximum number of hits they can do no matter how many ring attacks you get. So, I mean, attack boosts you get. So, and for Karen, it's only 4. And for Yuri, it's 5. So, that's it. But the guy in the speedrun was like, yeah, you should just leave it at 1 because you don't do that much less damage when you only have 1 attack. Apparently, I wasn't doing 5 times the damage by having 5 times the attacks.
That's disappointing. I wonder if that's not more of like a speedrun strat than it is like you probably do a decent amount less damage, but in terms of like speedrunning, it probably doesn't matter.
In terms of like random battles, I guess it doesn't matter, right?
I guess not. Yeah. I'm not sure, but it's still fun to have a lot more steps on the ring to like play around with.
It's totally fun. Yeah. So I really like the ring and the freaking scenes with the ring soul were awesome.
Oh yeah, the ring soul's like weird. Like they really like this whole concept that they came up with. You can tell that they were really involved, like in love with like. Yeah. We got this cool combat system. We're gonna juice it for all it's worth.
Yeah, they did. And the personality that they gave Yuri is really like what brought out the hilarity in the ring soul conversations. Like Yuri's like, that's it? Like, come on. Like the first time you meet him, he's like, what the hell are you talking about? What is all this nonsense you're spouting? And then like after like the 3rd or 4th time you meet him, he was like, the ring soul just like says his business as quickly as possible. And then he's like, and Yuri's like all disappointed, like, what? That's it? Come on, man, put some more heart into it. Hey, tell me about your wife, Ring Soul. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. Next time I'll pretend that I'm my wife, and you can see what she's like. That was hilarious.
Yeah, really good localization on this game.
Yeah,
which is a thing that they stepped up a lot in PS2 era.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, FF12 is like the best example, but they did a great job on this game. I don't know who did it. Okay, so one more thing about battle system. I don't really understand the benefit of using combos. I know that you can, have one guy hit them up into the air, have another guy smash them back down to the ground, and then have the third guy like throw them back up against the wall. But I wasn't noticing a difference in damage compared to just hitting them 3 times with 3 normal attacks.
I never did the numbers on it. I must have just assumed, well, if this is a combo and it takes time and more technical skill to set up, there must be a reward for it. So I probably went through the whole game never actually examining whether or not you got a big benefit out of combos, but
I don't think we did. I mean, they looked like the
that's a
same numbers
bummer.
to me. Yeah, because when we first got introduced to combos, I was like, oh my God, Mel, you're too good to me. This is amazing. That's what I thought. And then as time went on, I was like, so what is the combo doing for me? I could just hit him 3 times, or I could combo him 3 times. And I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happens. I did hear, like read or whatever, that if you get a 4-person combo off, you do have a chance at doing a final attack kind of thing, which I never did. I never did a 4-person combo. So, wait a minute. Do you have 4? Yeah, you do have 4 people apart. Yeah. So, but other than that, I've never done that, and other than that, I don't know what the benefits are, other than you get to watch them go up and then down and then back.
Maybe there's some sort of like a turn priority advantage that you gain. I don't know. That's crazy if they don't give you any kind of like serious benefit for not only setting up the combo and then like succeeding on those mini quick time events between attacks.
Yeah.
That's kind of silly if there's no material benefit there. But if not, I don't know. It was at least fun to do, I guess.
It was fun to do. Yeah. I think that's everything I have to say about the combat system.
Yeah, and I think that pretty much wraps up everything I have to say about both of our pieces, except to say that the third game is surprisingly disappointing.
I'm sorry?
The third game is
is it really?
surprisingly, yeah. I mean, it's hard to put my finger on without getting lost in the weeds on that subject. But if you're curious and you have the time and the means to play Shadow Hearts from the New World, give it a try. But I never actually finished that game, and I've tried several times.
Okay. It's also on PS2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you played Shadow Hearts 1?
I played all 3 of them. I've only finished the second one at least once.
Okay, so is it safe for me to assume that if we've played the second one, we've played the best one, and we don't really need to go and play all the other ones?
I think that is not only our opinion, but that is the opinion I tend to run into on the internet.
Yeah. Lately, I'm all about not playing every game in every series, just playing the best ones in all the series. So.
Hey.
And, I mean, if I'm dying to have more Judgment Ring in, like, a different game, then, yeah, I guess I will go back and try one of those other ones. But, like I said, upon checking out the secrets online and stuff, because one thing that can make a game way more awesome to me is high-quality secrets. Man, this game has some crazy-ass stuff. Did you know?
Does.
Yeah. Did you know that there's this item you can get that, I forgot the name of it, I think it's called the Extreme, where it turns the entire ring invisible. I'm not the ring, the indicator and the hit zones and strike zones.
I
invisible.
remember that. Yeah.
And if you hit, and so it's invisible, so you have to have the ring memorized. But if you can hit it with that, you deal triple damage. That's awesome.
Like comical.
Yeah. And another thing this game does that's awesome that I forgot to mention is they allow you to turn it up to 11. To turn up everything to 11, which is like what that one accessory I mentioned does. And also, the game ends around level 50. So I assume the cap is 99. That's a hell of a lot more powerful you can still get and completely destroy stuff if you wanted to. And I also heard that there are some optional bosses, which I did not find. So, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
game.
there are some optional encounters. There's a lot of stuff that you can unlock, like equipment-wise, which is probably where I was thinking, like, story-wise. It's probably more just equipment-wise for, like, the rest of your cast. Like, there's a lot of weapons, basically, and abilities that you can unlock that require fighting bosses and stuff. This is definitely a game I went through with the strategy guide, like getting backs open, or at the time it would have been printed out because I didn't have a computer up in my old room where like was playing this game off of a CRT and we had one computer in the house.
Yeah, so this is one of those games where like buying the guide might actually be worth your money just because it's actually got cool secrets. Yeah, and back in the PS1 era, man, like it was so worth it to buy a guide, not just because like the internet wasn't as huge as it is now, but because just the secrets were way better back then.
There were
And
a lot, and they were also really like esoteric and like
yeah, that too.
unfair but fun in a way. Like, how would I know this? Like,
Yeah,
but still,
yeah. So this is one of those games that has really cool secrets that I would actually
yep,
consider buying a guide for because it's a cool game. I want to ask you a
yep,
couple things before we finish. Uh,
sure.
you said you didn't like the graphics?
Nope, I don't believe I ever mentioned that. I think they look really good for the time, and I remember being pretty impressed by like the level of like animation and the voice acting as well on top of it.
Okay, I'm sorry. You said something like this game looks really beautiful until you really look at it. You said something like that.
Oh, I think I was talking about like the detail of the plot. Like the
Oh,
plot
okay.
looks fascinating, seems interesting until you really take a closer look and go,
Okay.
this doesn't seem interesting at
I see. I
all.
see. Not related to graphics then. Yeah. Yeah, I
No,
thought the
not
graphics were
visual.
very good.
Yes, for the PS2, mid PS2 life cycle game, this game looks great.
Yeah. Okay. And I had one other thing, but I forgot what it was. So I guess I'm done.
And I think that will probably wrap us up.
Yeah.
So then that would make this the
I'm sorry.
end.
I remembered it just
Oh,
now.
go for it. Go
Is,
for it.
is this game in your top 10 or something? Like, is it pretty high? Around where is it for you?
Yeah, I would put it in my top 10. Yeah, somewhere. I could, don't ask me on the spot where in the top
Yeah,
10,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yes, definitely on my short list of games,
Oh, wow.
like role-playing games that I love the most. Yes,
Mm.
absolutely.
Yeah, objectively looking at it, like everything is so well made in it. But despite that, and despite how much I complimented it, it actually doesn't get into my top 10 because,
Mm.
like I mentioned, I cannot stand dark games.
Oh,
I'm,
that's fair.
I mean, can't stand is obvious. I obviously had fun playing it, so I was
If it's
standing
not your
it.
style, it's not your style. I
But yeah,
mean, that's
style
just,
wise, yeah, like in general, I'm not a fan of like dark or gothy things. And
sure.
when you play, like for example, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, like I guess they want Castlevania to be kind of scary and kind of dark and kind of gothic, but it doesn't look that way to me. It just looks cool. This one is actually dark in my opinion.
It is, and it's broody in a way, and the protagonist is
He's a
kind of
demon.
like an anti-hero, but he's a nice guy, so it
Yeah, he's
rides
cool.
the line a little bit. But
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's all I want to say. Otherwise, though, yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah, like you said, I think I would put this. It would definitely go somewhere in my top 10 of role-playing games. Certainly among my favorite on the PS2. That's no question. Top 5, top 3, maybe
Wow.
on PS2. Yeah, I
Awesome.
really like this game, and I should have been more confident, but we'll leave it as is in my segment. Um, so
Mm.
that for real this time
Yeah, sorry.
marks the end of episode, what is this, 5? Oh my goodness.
We're
We
doing a
already
good
got
job.
5 episodes,
We're doing a good
plus
job.
other little interstitials on our channel, so check out the rest of our videos. Zoltan has a few other interstitial videos. I have one that went up as well. The cadence of our release, as we've been saying at the end, is still a little up in the air. These major episodes will be airing once a month, roughly. But in order to know exactly when it goes up, the best thing to do is,
Subscribe.
yeah, you got it.
It's basically the
So
only way.
it really is. So go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and tell whoever you think would like to hear a podcast format show on YouTube about role-playing games
Yeah.
and people who like them.
And we need to talk about the next episode.
Oh, we do need to talk about the next episode.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell the
Yeah.
folks what we're playing?
Yes, so the next episode, episode 6, is the game that I have played before and chose for Mel, who hasn't played it, and that is not the Secret of Mana for the original one for the Super Nintendo. Do you know anything? I know you've already started playing it, but did you know anything about it going into it?
I think I started playing it originally when I got it on the Wii because it was one of those like games everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is on the Virtual Console," and
Oh,
then I
cool.
never played more than like tops 30 minutes.
Okay. So you've seen the beginning of it.
not a lot.
Yeah.
I knew like the combat system what it was about.
Mm.
But having only played such a short amount of time, I'm sure it develops a lot more from there. But no, I can't say I really know very much about this game at all.
Cool. Well, I look forward to telling you a little juicy bit of trivia how that game. I found this out just by looking up stuff online about Shadow Hearts 2. How Secret of Mana is actually connected to Shadow Hearts Covenant.
Ooh,
you had no
good.
idea, right? Yeah, so don't go looking for it.
I didn't.
Yeah, don't go
All
looking
right,
for
I won't.
information. I'll tell you. I want to tell you.
I won't.
Okay.
Well, that was a good little juicy link there.
Yeah, cliffhanger for you guys.
Yes. All right, so that will sign us out for episode 5. I want to thank my co-host Zoltan.
You're welcome, man. Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on Turn-Based Memories.
Thank you.